sent to a hellish place of punishment. "I don't want to go to the fuerza," I would scream, kicking Julia's shins as she dragged me upstairs. The next day, she'd point accusingly at her bruises. "Look what you did to me." In the glow of the nightlight, Alexander and I lay in our beds, listening to the grown-ups carrying on downstairs. We sailed into slumber on the waves of their revelry. The tinkling of ice plopping into glasses, the roaring of songs around the piano. We knew it had to be our father at the piano, with the others clustered around him. It seemed as if all grown-ups ever did was have fun, with Daddy as their audible ringleader. Our mother, Felicia, would be right beside him at the piano. Petite and elegantly beautiful, with a long, swan-like neck, she had grown up in Chile, the middle daughter of Chita, an aristocratic Costa Rican, and Roy Cohn, an American mining engineer, no relation to the nefarious Roy Cohn of the McCarthy hearings. Felicia Cohn was a wild spirit. Chile was too small and provincial to contain her. In her 20s, she was allowed to move to New York to study piano with her fellow Chilean, the eminent pianist Claudio Arrau. But upon arrival, Felicia shifted to an acting career, which likely had been her plan all along. She lived in a basement apartment in Greenwich Village with her dog, Nebish. It was 1946, Felicia was 24, and that's when she met Leonard Bernstein. We often heard the story. There was a joint birthday celebration for Felicia and Claudio Arrau. Lenny Bernstein, the brash, handsome young musician everyone was talking about, showed up at the party. Bernstein had been in the news ever since his nationally broadcast conducting debut with the New York Philharmonic 3 years earlier. At age 25, he'd stepped in for the flu-stricken maestro Bruno Walter in Carnegie Hall, an event that made the front page of the New York Times. Soon after, Bernstein made a double splash as a composer. First with his ballet Fancy Free, about 3 sailors on the loose in New York City, and then with On the Town, the hit Broadway show inspired by the ballet. Leonard Bernstein was young, American-born, Jewish, Harvard-educated, matinee idol handsome, madly charismatic, a superstar. The press lavished its attentions on him, as did the women and men, in every room he entered. This was the man Felicia met that night in 1946. As the story came down to us, Lenny sat on the couch while Felicia curled up at his feet and fed him shrimp, one by one. They became engaged. There was even a notice about it in a gossip column. But then they broke it off. There were complications. They just couldn't make the leap. Felicia went off to be Eva Gabor's understudy in a Broadway play, where she fell in love with the leading man, Richard Hart. He was a hopeless alcoholic, abusive when drunk, but she loved him. She told us that Hart died in her arms, of liver failure. A couple of years later, sadder but wiser, or something, Felicia and Lenny decided to make a go of it after all. They married in September of 1951, flooded with nerves. On the drive from Massachusetts to Mexico for their honeymoon, Lenny, possibly out of pure suppressed panic, drilled Felicia on the rules of English grammar. Each morning, they would climb back into the car, and Daddy would say, "You remember in yesterday's lesson." It's a miracle the marriage even made it to Mexico. They spent their honeymoon in a cheerful villa in Cuernavaca, spending much of their time with the writer Martha Gellhorn, who would become a lifelong friend. She may well have saved the shaky new marriage by toggling back and forth between the anxious newlyweds, lending each a sympathetic ear. I was born exactly 1 year after the wedding. When I was little, my mother was a steadily working stage actress, using her mother's maiden surname, Felicia Montealegre. She also acted in live television dramas, winning awards for her performances on shows like Playhouse 90 and Kraft Theater. And she did concert narrations as well. In our living room, there was a framed photograph of Mummy as Joan of Arc, her eyes looking heavenward as she is consumed by a backdrop of flame.